It's understandable to have negative feelings or distressing feelings as a response to coronavirus. It's something that we don't know very much about. It's something new. We're being forced to live our life in a different way that we hadn't chosen to live it in a different way. It's affecting almost every area of our life. So it's affecting our social life. It's affecting us emotionally, financially. We're not able to go to work the way we would. Education has changed. So almost every area of our life has been impacted in one way or another. And it's touched all of us. So people who we're talking to are also feeling the effects of it as well. So I think it's understandable that we would feel anxious or we would feel low as a result of being in the current situation that we are right now. We almost can't get away from it. We're kind of being flooded by the negativity about it, and nobody ever really moves away from thinking about the negative stuff and tries to focus on some of the positive, even the small positive changes that may have been imposed on us as a result of it. There's lots of ways that we can take care of our well-being during this pandemic. The first thing to remember is it's challenging, it's difficult, but it isn't going to last forever. We are going to move through it, and things will go back to some kind of normal. So one of the important things is to remind ourselves that we're not going to be in this situation forever. So that's the first thing. And then the other things are more practical things. So for example, making sure that we have a good night's sleep as possible. That can help to keep our feelings in check. It can stop us from allowing our mind to wander off. So good sleep hygiene is absolutely essential. For good sleep hygiene, I would recommend things like trying to go to bed at the same time every night, trying to get up in the morning at the same time. When you get up in the morning, carry on with your regular morning routine. So do get dressed, do have a wash, do brush your teeth and prepare for the day. So then that routine will help you then be ready to go to bed at the same time that night. Making sure that we don't use screens too close to going to bed, because that can reduce our good quality sleep. Making sure that we're not eating or drinking too late. And also try and make sure that your bedroom is a comfortable, tidy place to be, and that it isn't too hot. If our room is too hot, then that can affect our sleep as well. So a nice cool room and a nice warm, comfortable bed is the best way to get a good night's sleep. Also about looking after ourselves physically as well, so making sure that we are eating regularly and we're eating healthily, keeping ourselves hydrated as well, that's important. If we try and have different colour foods on our plate, then that's a good indication that we're getting different nutrients as well, is important. Our physical health is something else that's important, so in terms of making sure that we are physically active, that's really important. We know with coronavirus at the moment, one of the best things that we can do for ourselves is to take care of our body and to boost our immune system. So there's two ways that we can do that. The first one is making sure that we have some natural sunlight as much as we possibly can. So if restrictions allow and we are able to go outside to take advantage of that, go outside in daylight hours, get some nice sunshine, get some vitamin D, that will help our immune system. And it's also good for our mental health as well. If we can access a green space, a field or a park or a garden or something like that, that will be even more helpful for our well-being. But if we can connect with nature or connect with the environment around us, that will really help our mental health and our well-being. So a really simple way of doing that we can remember if we are outside is to use our senses. So I would say mindfulness is about focusing on one thing on purpose without distractions from anywhere else. So my favourite way of doing mindfulness is to think of what can we see around. So if you're in a park, for example, to really focus on things. So if you was to look at a tree, you'd be looking at the leaves, the different shades of colours on the leaves. Look at the bark, the different textures of the bark. Can you make any shapes out the clouds? Can you see any shapes through the trees? So you can really focus visually on the environment around you. You can then use your hearing, so what can you hear? Really consciously listen, are there some bird sounds that you can hear? Can you capture any of those? Can you name any of those? Do you know any of those birds? If you don't, is that something that you could task yourself with? Learn about some of the bird calls. So you can use your hearing, texture, so what can you feel? You might be able to feel the wind, but also the bark of the trees, things like that. So you can use all of your senses. And lastly, what can you smell? So if you're taking some nice deep breaths, can you smell the fresh air? Can you smell, some of the plants that might be around? Can you smell the dew? So really to take advantage of that outside space, you could do some mindfulness activities like that. I think one of the things that can help if we are going outside into the supermarket, for example, and we feel anxious or uncomfortable about that, it's useful to think about the things that we can and can't control. When we're at home, we have more control over things, but when we go out into the outside environment, such as a supermarket, we are then exposed to things that we can't control. So we can't control, for example, if other people wear masks, we can't control if people keep their 2 metre distance, we can't control what's on the shelves. So rather than focus on the things we can't control, because that will then increase our anxiety, feeling out of control will increase our anxiety, to try and focus on the things that we are able to control. So we can wear our own face masks, we can keep our 2 metre distance, and we can also make sure that we have a plan of the kind of things that we might want to buy in the supermarket. We might want to have a plan of where they are, for example, so that we're having to move around less. So recognising that we can take control of the small things can be really helpful. One of the things that I'd suggest you might like to try in aid of thinking of the can control, can't control, is to do 2 lists. So if you was to have a list of all the things that you can't control on one piece of paper and a list of the things that you can control on another piece of paper, you can then go to the can control list and you can look down those and you could think, which one of these can I do something about it? So for example, one of the things might be that you are frustrated, you're bored at home and you haven't got anything to do. So then you could think, okay, what can I do about that? Maybe I could learn a new skill, maybe I can learn a musical instrument, maybe I could try some new recipes. So some of the things that you can control on that list. And that can be really helpful because we're achieving something. And then we could look at the list of things that we can't control. And if we just take that piece of paper and fold it up and put it away and acknowledge that for now, the things that we can't control are out of our league, we can't do anything about it, and for now I'm just going to have to accept that I'm going to put those to one side and not worry about those. That can really help to alleviate some of our anxiety. I think there's a couple of things to think about if you're at home on your own and you feel isolated. It's absolutely essential that we do feel connected to the outside world. So it's essential that we do still connect to family and friends, and there are different ways that we can do that. So depending on what restrictions are, we need to bear that in mind for your local area and make sure that we're sticking to that at the time. But in terms of connecting with people, if you can't meet up outside, then I would suggest to use the digital platform to do that. So of course you can telephone somebody, you can speak to somebody over the telephone, and there are also various online platforms such as Zoom that you can contact people as well, or FaceTime on the phone. If you are worried and you need any more support around COVID-19, I would suggest phoning Birmingham Mind's helpline and they can direct you to more focused support.